Alright, so like I said, you don't want to forget to clean up your axle shaft. It ain't got to be perfect, but you want to mainly clean up the area of the threads, because that's where I've seen the majority of axles hold on to gunk, is right in the thread area. So I'm just gonna give it a hit of that, and as quickly as you can before it dries, because brake cleaner is very much so alcohol. You want to wipe it down, and you want to go into on the threads. You want to kind of wipe them in the direction that you would be taking off the nut to help get all the debris and gunk out of there. Alright, so as you can see, we got that for the most part. There's a little bit of paper towel stuck there, but we'll poke that out. There. So we got that paper towel out of there, or napkin. Now we're going to wipe off our castle nuts pin, retaining key, pin, whatever you want to call it. Technically, these are supposed to be, I can't remember the style, but they're little keys. You stick them in, bend one of the legs. But this wire will work, it just won't. I guess it could cause more damage if anything ever goes wrong, because those other keys can shear, which I'm not sure if they were made that way or what, but it's the way they ended up working. And you can see that I'm wiping the entire axle. I'm even getting up on the rim right behind it. And you want to make sure that rim's clean, because that's where the scrubber part of that's where the scrubber in your hub goes. So I'm going to spray the napkin with the brake parts cleaner and just wipe down that rim right there real good. Wipe down this hub, see if I feel anything catching or any damage to it, or the axle, I'm sorry. I don't feel anything. So we've got her cleaned up good. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take our hub and our washer from a while ago. Get the washer set down in there. Now we're going to take our hub while holding on to the front bearing. Your front bearing can fall out. Your rear bearing has a cover that holds it on, but the front can fall out. So you want to be careful, make sure that you don't knock it out, and then you slowly slide your hub on. As you can see, I'm kind of rotating it because I want all that extra grease we put in there to stay in there and not get pushed out the end by the axle, which you can see it kind of is. So when that happens, take your napkin, wipe off the excess, shove it the rest of the way back. And as you can see how that bearing moved. Alright, we're going to wipe off a little bit. Alright. Now, when it comes to your castle nut, you can over tighten these bearings and damage them by just having too much pressure on them. The best way, or the way I was taught, let's put it like that, you just get your castle nut started on, and you can see I'm doing this by hand. You can use a wrench if you like to help keep the grease off, wear gloves, whatever. But I'm doing it by hand. Right there is hand tight. I can spin the hub a little. As you can see, it doesn't keep spinning. Now you can see that is pretty good, right? It's spinning well, it's spinning free. It's a little stiff because of the new grease, but there's no rock in it. That's something else. You don't want it to be able to move forward or back. So right there, there's movement. I know you all can't tell, but I can feel it. And that's what you don't want. You don't want your hub to be able to move forward or back or side to side, because that's going to allow your bearing to walk around, and in turn, it's going to damage it. So it's still moving. And you can see I'm just slowly checking this, giving it roughly, I don't know, 1/8 of a turn or so. Check the bearing. And that was me just rotating the hub, and it tightened on its own. which means I'm getting relatively close to the tension we want. And there, it's not moving. So now you turn the nut until you can get to your locked pin hole, or the hole that you put your little lock retainer in. And you slide it on in there. This, where it's a piece of wire instead of a lock key, I'm gonna have to tap it through with a hammer. Just be careful, don't damage anything. So now that we've got that done, you just take it, bend it over, and you have repacked the bearings on your hubs. This is still a little stiff, and the best advice I can give you, after you drive this trailer, after you pack the bearings, I don't know, let's say you just drive it to the gas station, put gas in the car, and come home. After about 5-10 miles, you want to recheck this. Because once that grease starts to get worked in that bearing, it can either loosen or be too tight. So you want to recheck your hub after you've driven the trailer for a little while, double check the tension, and make your adjustments as they need to be made, whether you need to tighten the nut or loosen it. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and get the cap put on. We're going to check about getting that Zerk fitting put in, and I'll bring y'all back. Alright, something I forgot to mention. When you're putting these caps back on, they are very thin. You can damage them very easily. You want to make sure you have these caps centered before you ever start tapping them. Because if you damage the rim, it can loosen them up. And if you loosen the cap, it's going to fall off down the road, and it's going to let dirt and debris get into your hub and destroy the bearings. So what I do typically, I didn't show you with this one, I can show you all on the next one. I just kind of center it by hand, and then I go around hitting just this hard and walk around the exterior of the cap until it's fully seated. This one still has a little way to go up top, so. And as you can see, just those small hits are marking the head of this cap. It is very thin material. You want to be very careful. Alright, as you can see, I got a dot on this cap now because I was trying to find the center. But as you can see, it's still a little off there. So what I do is I just keep moving it until I get it as centered as I can by hand. So right now, I know the center is somewhere in this black dot. So what I'll end up doing is I'm gonna take my tape measure, and I'm going to measure all 4 sides of this, probably 6. So, for instance, I'll measure here to here, here to here, here to here, here to here. And I will draw a line across all those areas, and where the lines intersect, that will be dead center. So, that's just something I figured I could show y'all that can help you find center on pretty much anything. Just take a tape measure, straight edge, a ruler. Do your best to go evenly side to side. Just draw lines. And after you draw about that number of lines, you will have the center point of whatever you're looking for. Alright, so this next hub, I'm going to set you all up on a time lapse. But I do think that this hub may be different due to the lugs, because this has the bolt style lugs when the other one actually has lug nuts. So if the hub turns out to be different and the bearings are different, or it's orchestrated in a different way, I will film it. But otherwise, I'm just going to put you on a time lapse, and we're just going to try to knock this one out. Alright, I'm not sure if y'all noticed in the time lapse, but I ended up knocking this out and it fell on the ground. If any of your bearings hit the ground, you want to be certain you get them very clean, because when that happens, they pick up dirt and debris. And if there is dirt and debris, as you can see where this one hit the ground, it's got stuff stuck all over it. I mean, we're going to clean the bearings anyways. But you want to be very certain that you get them spotless if that happens. And you can tell that this hub is indeed different. It's got a newer style bearing on it. So someone's been in this one before. But other than that, it all goes the same exact way. The only difference is that piece that went into the back of the other hub that we just did, on this hub it is rubber. So it was a lot tougher to get out, took a little more time, but they all still come apart the same way. So with that being said, we're going to get back to the time lapse and keep moving forward. All right. If the audio's sounding different, my microphone's kind of went on the fritz, so to say. But I have another way of packing these bearings that I'm wanting to show y'all. It was delivered finally, but this is it. It's for laying down small beads of grease. It attaches just to your typical grease gun. So what I'm going to do is I have a smaller handgun that I'm going to attach this to, because on the pneumatic it can blow out the seals because of the pressure. So I'm going to put this on the handgun, and then I'll bring y'all back and I'll show you how I'm going to inject the grease into these new bearings. Alright, well, I forgot my smaller handgun, so we're going to use the pneumatic, but what I'm going to do is turn the air pressure down to about 20 psi. So right now I'm over at the compressor and I'm turning down the pressure dramatically. Alright, so we have it at about 20 psi, and the way these couplers work, as you can see, it goes right on to a Zerk fitting. So my gun has a way that you can attach it to hold itself on. You screw it on and tighten it down. So we're going to hit it and see if it shoots the grease across the room. Alright, so that ain't enough pressure for it to operate. So we're going to increase the air pressure. There we go. Alright, so as you can see how it's squirting out. So we just got to make sure we keep a good tight seal on that. And what I'm going to do is inject this on the bottom side of the bearing. Not this side, this side. So we're going to lay it down. I'm going to put down a different napkin. And because those have brake clean on them, I've done that intentionally because brake clean evaporates very quickly. And if you get it on a rag, you can still use it to clean other parts without using more of the brake clean out of the can. So we're just going to stick it right in there on that lip and start injecting in the grease. Of course, it's going to take more than one injection to get it to push through the bottom side. But this is going to get it started, and then we're going to finish it off by hand. And the upside to doing it this way is we're getting that marine grease injected into it, when the other one, if you recall, we had to inject it with the high temp. So I've already got grease on my hands, otherwise I would put on the gloves. But as you can see, the grease is actually already coming through almost all the way. But we're going to take it and we're still going to pack it in by hand just to make sure it gets all the way through and it gets more than it needs. I just do it to be double safe. That is honestly the only reason. And remember, it's the same thing. Scoop a little and pull. It's like taking small bites, except for you're using a bearing to do it. And you see how the first bit to come through is a different color? That is caused by the brake clean that we use to clean these bearings off. So I just push through until it starts turning green. And at that point, we wipe off all that old grease off the top. The other bearings didn't have that problem because they set overnight, but these ones haven't. So they have plenty of time to dry and the brake clean to evaporate, etc. But as you can see, slowly but surely that grease starts pushing through. And with us injecting it like that, it actually saves us a ton of time. Those little bits are not meant to be used on pneumatic air guns, and I would have more control with the hand pump. But like I said, my hand pump, I guess someone's borrowed it, or I've left it at the other garage, I'm not sure. But as you can see, just keep pushing it through till you see it coming out and you know you got it. Alright, we've done one all the way around this bearing. So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to take that little needle and I'm going to inject it on this top seam as well. Just double safety. Remember, it's never a bad thing to put too much. It's only bad when you don't have enough. Okay, too much is a bad thing. You'll blow out the seals. But that's more when you're injecting the grease into the hub through a Zerk fitting. The way we are doing it right now should be perfectly okay. And yep, I done knocked my clean bearing on the ground, so we're going to have to spray it again. So we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to take it and slowly pump it into this top lip. Just to make sure we get plenty of grease in this bearing. There. Alright, so that one is now done. But like I said, we dropped that other one on the ground. So I'm using one of these napkins that are soaked in brake clean to clean off my hands. That's a good trick, by the way. I don't know how good it is for your skin, but it will remove absolutely anything that you get on your hands. Alright. Which, that bearing has no more grease on it. So I don't have to do like I did the first time and smother it in brake clean. I'm just going to go over it to make sure we remove any dust or debris that it picked up. Last thing we want is a chunk of dirt being stuck in this bearing. Alright. And from what you've seen a while ago, we're just going to dry this one off a little bit so we don't get so much discolored and contaminated grease. But now that I've shown you all how to do that with this bearing, I'm going to go ahead and start the time lapse back up. I'm going to finish off this hub, get around to the other side, take care of those, and then we'll be ready to send this video out to y'all. So, here we go. Alright, something else I was wanting to show you all is, I'm sure most people know how to slime a tire. These tires are old, they've got cracks in them. I'll see if I can show y'all real quick, see if you can see any of them. Get the light turned on. Well, you can kind of see them right in here. There's a bunch of hairline ones, then there's some relatively bad ones. Like right in here. The tires are holding air pressure, but but like I said, I've got a job coming up and I'm going to use this trailer for it. And like I said, it's 65 to 70 miles away. So I'm just going to go ahead and put a little bit of slime in each tire. I know for tires this size, it's going to call for an entire bottle about this size. But what I'm going to do is put about a quarter of this bottle in this one. Then, so each tire is going to have a little bit in it, and then I'm ordering spares off of the internet. Problem is, I still haven't found any. I think this is a very old style trailer tire, so I'm going to have to find something I can replace it with. So, the way you do slime, you get the hose stuck on the end of it like this. You push it all the way down, and then that'll hold that on. Then what I like to do is you put pressure on the tire and it kind of caves in a little, right? Well, you cave it in and you hear it blow out a little more air. So what that means is once you get this tube pressed onto the valve stem, after you remove the valve stem, you just get it pushed onto the nipple, you release the tire and it creates a suction and it'll start taking slime by itself for the most part. And then you just inject just a little, because like I said, we're going to try to split this up between 4 tires. So we take it off, we're going to see how much we got in there. It's rather hard to tell through the label, so we're going to go ahead and pull the label off here so we can see how much we've got in there. I mean, there are labels on measurements, so we're going to take it to 12 ounces because that's 4 ounces per tire. So we're going to go ahead and do that. We're just a little shy of 12, so we're going to go ahead and inject a little bit of difference. It's probably about an ounce more. And remember, you have to periodically stop when you're putting slime in a tire. The reason you have to periodically stop is the slime displaces air and it creates pressure in the tire. Once you get so much pressure in there, you have to stop and let the pressure out so that way you can keep putting slime in. But as you can see, you may not be able to tell on camera, but roughly right there is where the level is. You might be able to tell. So that's just something I figured I'd share with y'all for those of you that haven't ever done it. Then after you put in the slime, all containers of slime come with this valve stem tool. There you go. I've actually made valve stem tools out of flathead screwdrivers. You just got to grind it down into this shape with a little notch in the middle of it. That's why I've done it with flatheads. I can put this notch in them and then reach in there and remove the valve stem. The thing with valve stems is don't try to over tighten them. Once a valve stem is tight, it is tight. Because these have rubbers on them, and if you strip out those threads, the tire's going to lose air no matter what. So, like I said, you just get it tight and then you stop. So now this tire is done. The key is when you reinflate the tire, you want to roll it around, bounce it around, put it back on whatever it came off of, ride it around. But you want to do that so the slime coats the entire interior of the tire. I don't know if I've got enough in this to actually coat the whole interior, but if it coats some of it, that's good enough for what I'm doing. Alright, I'm going to show y'all. When you're doing bearings, you see something like this. That is an excessively worn bearing and you need to replace it. Can you see the separation on that? Those little pins are able to actually come out if they wanted to. And that's the kind of excessive wear on a bearing that can cause very major damage as far as the wheel falling off, etc. So it's something as little as that. Well, hang on, let me see if I can do it again. Something as little as that is a very big problem. And that's what you look for when repacking and checking your wheel bearings. All right. Well, as y'all seen through the time lapse, we have just finished all these hubs. The reason I didn't show you them all, they are all the same way. I showed you the one on the other side and the second hub that was a little different, but they all come apart the same way. All the bearings packed the same way. You always look for the same things when you're disassembling them. You look for excessive wear, any type of scarring, damage, scratches, burrs, any of that, automatically throw it out. If the hub's damaged, get a new hub because it'll eat up your new bearing. So you just want to be vigilant, pay attention, check for damage, wear, and check that your bearings are fully intact and they're not damaged. And when you're reassembling them, there's no such thing as too much grease. Because you got to think, how often do we do this? How often do any of you that own trailers do it? I personally never do. I bought this one, it's old, so I figured I should. The other trailer I have, I've done the same thing. When I bought it, I did it. Other than that, I haven't touched it. So, I mean, it's just something you want to excessively buy, especially when you're buying used trailers, you want to do it. Because no matter how new or how old, you can't trust that someone else is taking care of something. So, I hope y'all enjoyed. And remember, this is Self-Taught Garage. And I'm trying to get a little bit different content for y'all. I haven't done it in a while, but I'm trying to change it up. So, next week, we got to tear down a building, and I've got to wire up the trailer lights before we go. So that way we are legal to go down the road. So, hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, subscribe, share, and we'll see y'all on the next one.